When Senator John McCain ran for president in 2000, his campaign was based on the premise that I won't always say the things you want to hear, but I will tell you the truth, or as he put it, straight talk. He gave a number of speeches that lived up to that premise. One of the most notable was his comments on televangelists like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell, who each influenced large chunks of Republican voters and were therefore in a position to hurt his campaign. Despite their influence and the risk of telling the truth posed, he defined them publicly as divisive and refused to pander to them. He later even doubled down and called them forces of evil. In the end, however, McCain lost the Republican primary to George W. Bush, in large part as he had angered Christian conservatives, but also due to an extremely vile smear campaign in South Carolina that claimed that his adopted daughter was his illegitimate child, that his wife Cindy was a drug addict, and so on. During this campaign, even his own commitment to straight talk began to waver, as at one point he caved to pressure from his advisors and declined to condemn the continued display of the Confederate flag, something he later said he regretted. I was a Republican in 2000, believe it or not, and supported McCain. By the time the Bush years drew to a close in 2008, however, I had become disillusioned with the GOP. It was clear the impact of their policies was to make the rich richer, while everyone else, at best, remained stagnant. In twice electing Bush, the party also endorsed the glorification of mediocrity. I first labeled myself independent and later joined the Democratic Party. In the UK, I've aligned myself with Labour. When John McCain announced he was running again in 2008, I was tempted to reconsider that decision. But unfortunately, the McCain who ran in 2008 was a different person and a different candidate than we had met in 2000. Gone was any real straight talk, although I think the slogan was still around. I felt Senator McCain was selling his soul to win the support of his party's establishment in the nomination, and I was extremely disappointed. And when he did earn the GOP nomination, his selection of a running mate was the nail in the coffin. Here was a man who stood for excellence and for a lifetime of service, who, in choosing Sarah Palin, was embracing the triumph of mediocrity that had marked the Bush years. With Palin at his side, McCain's campaign became divisive and polarizing. I think even the senator was taken aback at the growing animosity among the Republican base, such as when a woman at one of his town halls said that then Senator Barack Obama was a Muslim who needed to be stopped. McCain actually took the microphone away from her, corrected her misinformation, and defended his opponent. The damage, however, was done and continued to be done. The seeds of doubt, of racism, and of hatred planted in that campaign loomed over President Obama's 2 terms. In recent months, however, that old maverick John McCain seems to be back, willing to stand against his own party when he thinks that they're headed in the wrong direction, repeatedly taking stances that aligned with his own beliefs and principles, even when it angered Trump and Republican leaders, and threatened to ostracize him from any inner circle, twice helping defeat Trump's attempts to cut millions of Americans off from insurance, and thus, to a large extent, from healthcare itself. When asked by a Fox News reporter if he planned to block everything that Trump did, McCain fired back, "Why would you ask anything so stupid?" Then, giving that reporter a civics lesson, he continued that he is in the Senate to represent the people of Arizona and serve his country, not block legislation because of some silly personal dispute. Arguably, McCain has been freed to be McCain, as he'll probably never stand for another election. But the fact is, he is now standing on his principles. The good of the country first. The interests of the Republican Party, at best, a distant second. And that is a good thing for the country, no matter what party a politician belongs to. And much of the respect that I felt for McCain back in 2000 has returned. Along with great sadness when it was announced that he has an aggressive brain tumor, which, despite treatment, is expected to be terminal. Even with this news, McCain returned to the Senate less than 2 weeks after his surgery and just got back to work. This week, Senator McCain was awarded the Liberty Medal for his long service, and I feel his remarks are perhaps the capstone of a great career, not without its faults or flaws or stumbles, but a great career of a man who did his best to serve his country. Senator McCain was speaking to an American crowd here, but I feel the core, the spirit of his remarks are not confined to any one country or people. It is a worldview of serving something other than your own interests. Or, to borrow a line from Star Trek, it's off rephrasing something from Jeremy Bentham. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. You know, I could drone on, but really I think Senator McCain's words speak for themselves. So please let me quote, in part, some of his speech. Quote, "To fear the world we have organized and led for 3/4 of a century, to abandon the ideals we have advanced around the globe, To refuse the obligations of international leadership and our duty to remain the last best hope of Earth, for the sake of some half-baked, spurious nationalism cooked up by people who would rather find scapegoats than solve problems, is as unpatriotic as an attachment to any other tired dogma of the past. We live in a land made of ideals, not blood and soil. We are the custodians of those ideals at home, and their champion abroad. We have done great good in the world. That leadership has had its costs. We have a moral obligation to continue in our just cause, and we would bring more than shame on ourselves if we don't. We will not thrive in a world where our leadership and ideals are absent. We wouldn't deserve to." End quote. Be good. And if you can't be good, be wicked well.